So after Sandstorm, I decided to look into Armada's wins and losses, and I did some research over Armada. And it seems like we're primed for a second era where Armada sort of reigns. And it's quite interesting because of just how good his performances have been recently, winning both Sandstorm and I'm Not Yelling. And although there were minor hitches here and there, having close sets with Hungrybox and Mango, he managed to win both. And against anyone outside of the Big Six, he just looks straight up dominant. And it's been kind of crazy just to see how crazy consistent he is. And I was asked recently on Ask FM to list off all the people that had won sets with gods. I did it. It wasn't completely comprehensive, but one thing that I noticed was that Armada does not lose to anyone outside of the Big Six. Whereas you see a bunch of people beat Mango. We've seen a lot of people beat Mewtwo recently. We've seen a bunch of people beat Hungrybox. PPMD is a little more exclusive, mainly because he he doesn't go to as many tournaments, so there aren't as many opportunities for people to beat him in bracket. But overall, I see a lot of similar trends when we look at Armada's current performances and Armada's performances back when he started rising up in the US scene back in '09. So when Armada first came to the US back at Genesis 1, a lot of people were very skeptical about how Armada would do. The predictions range from he could possibly get top 5 to as low as 17th. Hugs infamously saying that he's probably not going to get higher than 17th, and fair enough. We didn't really have too many good Europeans really show up. We've had, minor appearances here and there, but largely Europe remained disconnected from the US for a good while. We would see random people like Helios, the Doug, come out. We would see Captain Jack over there play against EK and AMSA, the European Sheik, but we largely were part of our own islands. We didn't have people, coming to the U.S. as much as they did now, and very fortunate that sponsors and donations are able to get players like Armada, Laffin, and Ice to the U.S. So Armada, shocks the world. He gets second place at Genesis, beating all three of the best U.S. players at that tournament at that time: the Shizwiz, Mewtwo and Mango. I guess you could toss in J-Man there, but nonetheless, Armada beat three of the top tier players. He gets second, but very impressive performance, and we see over the next year or two a string of very good performances. And even though he wasn't winning, he was probably the most consistent out of everybody in terms of overall performances. If you looked at everybody, Pound 4, he gets fourth, losing to AMSA and Silent Spectre. And this would actually be the last time in a series tournament that Armada would ever lose to a non-Big Six player. It's kind of crazy that was over about 5 years ago, actually. Apex 2010, he comes close again, loses to Hungrybox this time instead of Mango. Pound 5, he loses to PPMD, so 3 tournaments, also 4 tournaments, 3 of them he gets second, just so close but so darn consistent, and that's a pattern that we see in Armada. And finally, at Genesis 2, he unveils the young Link to beat HBox, dominates PP, beats a Prime Mango, and wins his first international tournament, wins the Genesis belt, weeps in tears, and this is where we begin to see Armada reign. Won virtually everything in Europe from 2011 to 2013, won Apex 2012, won Apex 2013, the 2 big tournaments in that stretch. We didn't really have Evo or CEO or Genesis anymore, so he won the 2 largest tournaments, competed against the best in the world, and hardly ever lost any sets, which is amazing. And then he took a brief retirement, and one of the biggest complaints is that he hasn't really come back to form, but I believe he's getting there. Evo 2013, he loses. Apex 2014, he doesn't enter. MLG and Evo 2014, he does decently well, but falls short, loses to Hungrybox, loses to Mango. But he wins a bunch of minor tournaments, such as, I guess CEO is not minor. He wins CEO in a bunch of tournaments that feature some of the gods at that time. So overall, he's doing really well for himself. And I think, we give Mango a lot of credit for winning those tournaments, both Evos and MLG. But Armada has been remarkably consistent, nipping at Mango's heels or nipping at whoever wins the tournament. And it's sad that he always gets second, but. And I think because he doesn't win, it kind of understates just how good Armada has really been over the past year. And we look at Apex 2015, he gets second, but beats almost everybody else aside from PP. He takes a set. He wins I'm Not Yelling, beating Mango, and he wins Sandstorm. And outside of anybody else, it just looks pretty straightforward for him. And it's really interesting because we're in an era where we're extending the Big Six to a Big Six plus maybe a demigod level with about 4 to 5 players, like Axe, Westballs. You can, I guess, toss in Hacks, maybe Plup, Pew Pew. And these are players that are starting to rise up and take sets against the Big Six, but we see Armada winning against these type of players 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. It's actually crazy how consistent he is, and that's going to be really good for him going into EVO 2015 and CEO 2015, which I also predict to be a huge tournament. He had a string of second places in his first era, and even though he got second at Apex 2015, I really have to put him as a favorite. And he just seems to constantly improve at a fast rate. He has new weapons for everybody. Has a Fox against Hungrybox, although the last set was really close. I really believe that he has the counter pick wars set against Mango. I don't think Muti King is in the same league as him anymore. Leffen can take sets against him once in a while. But, Armada will probably win 70% of the time. The only big question mark really at this point is PPMD. And if that's the only issue that Armada has, then things will look really good for him because of just how big the brackets are. He may not even have to face PP in tournaments to win it. And in order to make good runs in these large tournaments, I always say that you can't really have any 90-10 deficit matchups where a person just crushes you because that's going to bite you in the butt eventually. And Armada doesn't have any of those, whereas you look at everybody else, Hungrybox has Mango weaknesses. Leffen has less weaknesses, but I still am not convinced that he's particularly strong against Marth. Muti King has weaknesses against Armada, and I believe Hungrybox as of late. PPMD, not too many weaknesses, but I really do believe at this point in 2015 that if you have a matchup where you're 2080 or below, that you're not winning. And so it's going to be really interesting, and if Armada continues to perform, he may be able to strip away Mango's GOAT title. It'll be interesting. I guess not necessarily because GOAT is a title, but there might be a point, when we look forward in the next 6 months where we say Armada is clearly better than everyone else, and he may establish a tier where it's Armada and then everybody else in the Big Five or Big Six, and then a step below that. So it's going to be interesting, and that's what makes the next few months exciting. This could be a new era of dominance for Armada. It could be interesting that PPMD can just come back and take it. Mango can come into summer form and take it. Hungrybox seems to come out of nowhere and does well once every 4 months. So yeah, I'm really excited for Melee coming up ahead and what this means for each of the players' legacy as we head to another big summer of Smash.